Have you? Well, let's talk about the GM search and where things stand right now, because we haven't had a chance to talk to you since last week.
Right. I'm very confident that we'll have someone in place as early as tomorrow.
You're talking Dell?
Dell is obviously a very qualified candidate, but until we get that candidate announced, which will be again most likely tomorrow.
How many are you still considering?
Well, I talked to 7 folks. All of them are qualified. We start the conversation off with these guys that they obviously have the DNA, the basketball background, but it was really more finding who fit where we're going and our mission and how we want to get there. And so it wasn't a matter of having enough qualified candidates. It was more diving into how we go to work, what we want to accomplish, and how we're going to get there together.
Do you have it narrowed down to 2 or 3 now?
Yeah, it's fair to say that there's 2 or 3 that are still viable.
How much do you think it helps that the guys you haven't narrowed down to, let's say it's Pritchard and Dims, 2 guys that have a past relationship with your head coach, and it would probably make the transition a little easier?
Yeah, we're less concerned with how familiar they are with the personalities and more familiar with the mission we're trying to get done. In other words, how they work was much more critical to us as an organization than the fact that they may have crossed paths 10 years ago. Just because maybe you and I have worked together in the past doesn't mean that we think the same way or trying to get things done the same way. So it certainly didn't disqualify anybody, and it didn't act as an attribute, because candidly, who can't get along with Monty?
I think Monty's 38. You'll have a young general manager. Dell Demps is 40. I know Pritchard's not that old either. Does that signify to the veterans like Chris that that they can handle what they're doing, and that are they going to have the same kind of respect given the fact that they've he's never been a head coach, the general manager? More than likely, if it's Dell Demps has never been a general manager, are they going to be on board with that and be okay with everything?
Well, just because they're young doesn't mean they don't know what they're doing. And so all the candidates we talk to, you see a movement, especially at that position, where you have different things, different skills that are more valued. In the past, it was all about basketball and tribal knowledge of knowing, what was inside of a guy's head. You see a trend now with teams hiring former agents, hiring attorneys, hiring analytical guys. And so that trend is new. So I think in general you're going to see a youth movement across the league in the GM position, and I think everybody that's in this business understands that.
Do you feel like you guys are a little behind on the free agency point, since you've been basically saying you're going to wait to have to get this GM?
No, because for 2 reasons. One is that obviously there was a pipeline of conversations and things that had been going on. Secondly, whoever steps in, it's not like they've been living under a rock for 10 years. They know these rosters across the league. They know these agents. And third, if you look at our roster management, getting flexibility to move forward, it requires a lot of things more than just signing free agents. So we feel comfortable, very comfortable with where we are, and much like last summer, you might see a pace where people get impatient, but again, we're going to end up with a product at the start of the season we feel comfortable with.
Is there a greater sense of urgency to win this year, given the fact that things are so uncertain next year? There may not be basketball next year. There may be a lockout. And is there a greater sense of urgency to win now, given the fact that you don't know what the future holds as far as the collective bargaining agreement?
Well, there's a sense of urgency for us, period. We want to be a top 4 team in the league, and that means you got to have results now. That means you got to go out and do things that progress toward that. That means you have to bring in staff that is the top 4 at each position, collectively behind the scenes. That means you have to collaborate in ways that teams can't or don't. And so our sense of urgency is that we have a group of guys that just want to win. And so nobody likes to sit back and be patient and say, well, we'll do it in a couple of years. We don't feel any additional pressure from the collective bargaining or anything else. Feel very confident in the process we have, feel very confident in the people we're bringing in. And, I think that will by itself produce the results we want.
You spoke to the timing of the general manager's situation. What about the timing of the ownership transfer? Is there a realistic timeline where that's concerned?
I mentioned earlier that you guys may not know this, but some time ago, as I helped Mr. Shin and Mr. Schwest come together on an agreement, I stepped back and told both of them that someone needed to represent the team. And I've taken that role of representing this organization while they have each gotten their own teams to work on this. So candidly, on the day-to-day, I can't tell you I know that one day this person said that and one person this day said this. I'm in continual conversations and communication with both of them, being apprised of the transaction. I can tell you that both of them feel no sense of urgency that it has to be done today or tomorrow. In fact, I'll tell you a funny story. I talked to Gary on Sunday, and he said, Hugh, I understand that George and I aren't getting along. And he laughed. So this is much ado about nothing. It's probably more sexy. It helps other teams that probably bringing it up as a weak point for our organization, because I think they see the things we're doing and are intimidated by it. And so we're just going to keep our path, and we're going to let that transition happen and do it the right way instead of trying to rush it.
How less attractive, if at all, do you think this franchise looks to a potential free agent that's still out there searching for the right team as you guys go forward, maybe trying to lose some players here?
Free agents and their agents don't read press clippings. Sorry, guys. I mean, that's not how they determine what team they want to go to. They sit down face to face with people like Monty, and they see the things that we're doing, and that makes it look at our roster and look who's on it, and that's what makes it attractive. We're not starting from a point of having a 37-win team. We had a lot of injuries last year. Whoever's stepping into this organization knows that there's a high probability that we're not going to have the same amount of injuries next year, that you've got a young, dynamic staff that are dedicated to seeing this team win. So for most people, whether it's on staff or a player, they see this as a very positive situation.
You just said that there's not a significant sense of urgency for the sale, and some of the language last night in the statements that they released talked about owning the team together and working together. Do you think a sale will even be done this year, or will they continue to be the owners for the foreseeable future, and Mr. Schwest won't actually take over majority control anytime in the near future?
Well, I think it's really a good news story. If it's something that the two families work out, our staff and our organization is very confident that the Schwest will continue to carry the mission forward. There won't be a dramatic change in terms of how this organization does things. And if in fact they stay the way they are, we have two of the most cooperative, collaborative owners in professional sports that are again both on the same page. You don't have either of them trying to make certain things happen that the other one doesn't want. And so again, there is no downside to this at all. And so that's why I think that internally it's kind of a ho-hum for us.
Some of the national media stuff has been somewhat negative and even borderline ugly, I guess. Does that affect you in any way? I mean, do you have to just kind of shrug it off? Do y'all read it? Do you talk about it?
Well, Fletcher, for the record, I do know that basketball is blowing. It's not stuffed. No, I'm kidding. No, I mean, this business, you've got to have thick skin. And you know what? You can have detractors, and you can't get too excited when people are excited for you, and you can't get too down when people are down. We know what we have to do. We have plans. We internally are doing all the right things. The motivation we get is from each other, and we want our fans to understand that, again, this team is in not disarray. It's actually doing some wonderful things, and they're going to see the fruition of that in a short order.
Okay, thank you, Hugh.
Thank you.